All right. Hey, guys. Um, my name is Sturgis, and I serve as Seek's Chief Creative Officer. And this is Trey, who is our Chief Technical Officer. And Seek is a platform that focuses on lightweight, interoperable XR, AR, VR. We've been around for about, 6 years now? Give or take. This presentation for us is going to be pretty interactive. The reason that I call it storytelling and titled it that in the schedule is because in my mind, there are sort of 3 miles of AR. There is the first mile, which is the creation and the management and the distribution of assets just like this. Those assets get created in a lot of different ways using a lot of different pipelines, everything from like the incredibly sophisticated stuff that like the guys from Artifact, who you may know have just been acquired by Nike, are delivering, like sculpting in VR and then finally kicking it out to beautiful interfaces, or the kind of stuff that we do, which can come from places like Maya or really any of the more powerful gaming engines, or even Blender is one of Trey's favorites, and then getting reformatted and resized and then and managed and held inside of, in our case, a 3D CMS that can hold thousands and thousands of assets, and then distributed, and that's the trick, across like all the different channels of this thing that we fondly call the metaverse now, right? And for us, that's the first mile. And the second mile is the stuff that you're seeing around here, the world tracking, the foot tracking, the wrist tracking, the hand tracking, the face tracking, we all know from Snap. That's the second mile. And the third mile for me is the storytelling. And that's the part that we really look to you guys and to our partners to fill in. I have a film and sort of theater background myself. And the reason that I'm in XR is because I see this truly as, a great blank canvas for a way to break what we think about when we think about how stories are told. As we all know, like the internet is going 3D, and this to us is the most accessible version of it. So, what I'm going to do today is give you kind of a short, like little spiel. I'm actually just going to put a bunch of QR codes on the screens here, and hopefully just from your seats, you'll be able to point your phones at them and trigger what the Seek system delivers, which is lightweight, interoperable, interactive, in this case, mostly AR. But we can do that in a lot of different forms and a lot of different channels. And then we're going to open up the hood a little bit, and I'm going to hand this to Trey, and we're just going to kind of show you like what our partners and our clients use when they use the Seek system. And it's really an editing tool of sorts that allows for truly scalable management, manipulation, formatting, optimization of assets, just like our friend here, which is how we got the mask on him, right? And then allowing those things to be distributed all across all the different channels that we've built pipelines for, which are everything from Snap to Instagram, to the Walmart and Lowe's app, to every browser you could possibly imagine, to every device you could possibly imagine. The key and the sort of focus for us is always web-based. We really think that the biggest window to accessibility is going to be, is going to be being able to just use this stuff with as few road bumps for the user as possible. There are a lot of windows to the house, but the open web, especially combined with kind of the ethos of Web3, we really, really believe in, and we like leaning that way. But again, the future is unwritten, and we want you guys to tell us and show us and imagine with us as partners, how we can build better for you and help you guys build better things that everyone can use. So, this one is, I suspect, one that needs no introduction, but if you want to just hit that, I don't know if you guys can hit that from your chairs. If you're not, like, just feel free to jump up and don't be shy. Looks like everyone might be able to get it almost. And just like a little bit about this, and I'll probably hand it to Trey once the technical gets over my head, but what you'll be able to see is really fast, lightweight AR that's leaning on the device, right? It's leaning on the sensors in your phones and ARKit or AR Core, Apple or the Android platform and toolkits that really allow super just frictionless accessibility, right? And that's not to say that we don't have under the hood, deeper, what we call full-throated web AR experiences, things that have, toolkits like Slam engines that many of in the room may know from companies like Eighth Wall. That entire ability to turn a website into a camera is something we also believe in, because it allows for a little bit more depth of interactivity. You can just add all the bells and whistles of an actual website if you want to. But for us, for the current clients that we have, this works really, really well because it's lightweight. And as you can see, these little mini sites are actually very interactive when they want to be. In the true spirit of a party like this, we kind of went and hacked ARKit and Quick Look and are able to deliver, animated experiences. This is an actual Lego model that was originally made in Maya, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, originally in Lego's proprietary kind of set builder, which is rather heavy.
Right. So when we got this, when they threw this at our head, it was super heavy, right? I mean, millions of polygons, right? And so, Lego had a problem, which is that it's really hard to get millions of polygons to work on Walmart's website, right? And so they run it through our system, and we build pipelines that make it a lot easier for models like this to be optimized, to be reformatted, and without losing quality, shrink in size, right? So that's a key.
Speak for a second toward the idea of lightweight AR, because I'm definitely a huge fan of Unity and everything they do, and if you have the other platforms out there that you can do some really sophisticated kinds of experiences. But there's something to be said for the minimal friction of web-based AR. And this kind of this particular initiative that we did with Lego, we actually worked with a number of Walmart locations all across the country, somewhere in around 100 or so different Walmart locations, and they printed out QR codes and actually put those in the Lego aisle. So when people walked into the store, they could see the box and they could see, okay, that looks cool. And they could scan the QR code and immediately see that set come to life. See it in action is actually what the kind of slogan they had for that particular initiative. And so there's a very, very kind of focused, or not even super focused, but there's a lot of utility out of lightweight kind of AR experiences to be able to just let people jump immediately into these things from the existing hardware that we have, regardless of any kind of app being downloaded.
Yeah, totally. And on that note, I mean, we can take it. This is obviously animated, and it's very sort of like brand level quality. It passes all of the sort of really boundaries they have, as you might imagine, Lego being a globally recognized brand, their brand quality needs to be top notch. And so, they're very daring, but they're also conservative in the way that the stuff looks. But, I mean, the same goes with a brand like REI, right? Who has been, very open with us and letting us try stuff, again, using this sort of just lightweight interactivity, so you can still drop a sort of life-size tent, in your backyard to see how it feels. The quality is still very high, and you can just touch it. And, the flap, what is it? Is it the flap? It is the cover. The cover will pop off if you're a camping fan. I think there's a better word for that we're both missing, but the fly, that's what it is. It's the fly. And so, again, just these little moments that, again, the cool thing about it, I mean, as you guys know, Snap is probably in the room. They did an incredible report last year with Deloitte that really dug into some of the metrics that we were lucky enough to be a part of what it means to users, at least on the shopping experience side, right? When they're actually using AR, and the numbers are in, and it turns out it actually does bring users much closer to the brand. They spend more time with it. They learn more about it. They convert better to the shopping cart. But, that's really well and good. And it's helpful to have the bread and butter to help us experiment, right? And make money. That's what we're trying to do. We're running a company. But at the same time, that also speaks to me from a storytelling perspective as well, right? If we imagine that when we think about what it takes to just get people to care about the moments that we're crafting in AR and XR and VR, the same metrics apply, right? If someone's spending time along the way using a piece of art like this and building, again, we're using AR kit. We're still in that super lightweight, interoperable version of augmented reality, but you're seeing there's actually audio attached to this. So there's a voiceover, and we're still not in what we call full web, right? But we're allowing an educational experience that feels really magical. And, if you drill into the texture of the pedestal that this is on, we're creating these worlds that are kind of repeatable. You could drop anything on top of that pedestal. We've actually dropped numerous Nike skateboarding tricks on top of it. So, as a dev, you can really build these sort of repeatable environments that feel elegant, that feel magical, that are flexible, and that are really high quality and really, really, really lightweight. I'm going to keep using that word, right? And it goes one step further. If you go, do you guys all get a chance to grab that one? We can also share them afterwards if you're interested. But just speak up if you couldn't quite get it to trigger yet. Where's the other one of that?
Yeah. Where do you want?
Same one, but the tabletop. Oh yeah, sure. So here's another one. I want to actually send. It's Wonderwork too. So it's the second Wonderwork. Try that.
No, they both seem.
Any questions before we switch gears? This is just an animation that we actually grabbed off of TurboSquid, and we touched up a ton, right? So it was a pretty, I'd say for that platform, pretty expensive. It was probably like a $400 model or something. It was really high quality to begin with. It was super heavy, right? It was really, really heavy. And yeah, it's not that one. Here, I'll find it for you.
I was just gonna show.
Yeah, we can show the bits and pieces of it. That's a good point. And now the back end. So what you're actually looking at is the platform itself right now. But we just grabbed it. We grabbed the static model off of TurboSquid, touched it up a ton. We built the pedestal ourselves in this platform. And then we added the animation, but by grabbing that golden hand, we shopped around for a golden hand that would fit, right? And then we animated it, So that's really, that was all done inside this platform. So what you're looking at here, and I want to hand this to you to really walk through kind of the user experience from a dev perspective. But what you're looking at here is really like this, what we call the studio view of the SeekXR platform. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff we've talked about is kind of come from an enterprise perspective, because that's the majority of really the clients that we target. And in the course of building out these kinds of systems, we've really had to bring our creativity tools to the next level, and that's really why we're kind of at the point where we want to make these tools useful for creators like you people. And so I'll give a quick view of the things that we can do here. And admittedly, we're you know, you can see here that interactions are still in alpha, but they're still very powerful tools that can help you do things that are quite sophisticated. Actually, I'm going to switch to a different model to show this. Maybe I'll go to. This is the one you were wanting to show earlier, right? I just slacked that too. Yeah. The same one right here. Well, that might just be the table. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and this one's kind of interesting.
Yeah, actually, how about you give a demo on that one, and then I'll talk to the.
So yeah, just to back into this one in the spirit of that storytelling, right? So you can actually, this is again the same construction, right? We grabbed a bunch of stuff just off of TurboSquid just to prove that you can cobble things together and make them look elegant and really give a story to them, right? And you know what you're looking at when you look at both the whole scene, which is kind of on the quote unquote full web, right? But you can spin the table around right here, so that's interactive in and of itself. And then each of those objects you can also click on, and you've seen one version of it when you click on that. That has an audio voiceover that allows you to storytell around that specific object. The same thing happens to the rock. Again, it's in the same environment, all based around the mask of King Tut. So it's really about being able to take a museum experience, as in this instance is shown, and kind of break up these different elements, right? And the key to sort of storytelling in this type of environment to me is really about the elements themselves, right? If you want to deliver a sneaker shop, right? Like you can find like the kind of consistent yet still flexible elements of that to create instant pop-up shops that can show up anywhere in the world, right? Including your living room. And the elements of the actual walls, the pedestals, like the ones you see here, those can be consistent. You can store those inside of a system like Seek, right? And you don't have to recreate it the entire time. You know, this is not foreign to anyone who's ever used Unity before, but on the web and lightweight AR that you can spit out all across the internet with the touch of a button is pretty new, right? And I think that's kind of important to understand. Like we're letting, you know, where more sophisticated engines have taught us, you know, the real stuff works, but we're just trying to deliver toolkits that allow people who've never used this stuff before, you know, marketing managers, people like that who aren't necessarily as technically advanced as some of you guys are, to be able to go in here and use this not too dissimilar a way to like a Hootsuite for social media management, you know? And so, you know, being able to deliver elements of story around that is super, super interesting and helpful for a guy like me who is not a CTO, but still wants to be able to tell stories in AR. Yeah, you want to keep going?
Sure. So to paint a bit more of that of the broader picture around the storytelling is that we really aim to build this platform as a way to solve those different parts of those different miles of AR, as Sturz was referring to it as. The first mile being getting that content in the first place and out to where it can be used. And so we have a rather sophisticated fulfillment system that has an API that can allow clients or other people to request certain kinds of content with all the parameters and specifications around that, being the product imagery, the dimensions, and the target platforms, and then that asset can be fulfilled in a way that actually meets those requirements, and is ready to go for whatever AR use case has been decided. So as a quick demo of what that looks like a little bit on the kind of data side of it here is we have these platform compatibility matrices, really, and there's a way to see, hey, how does this file fit onto this particular deployment platform. So it works on Facebook because it's underneath their particular file size requirement. But for, say, a Decentraland parcel, this one uses textures that are bigger than what Decentraland requires. And so we have a lot of tooling that. Go ahead. Let's see on this one. Material count. So there are too many PBR materials on this one to be used on the Amazon platform, at least based on this particular set of requirements. Amazon has a few different ones.
And I think that's actually an important point. It's a great question. Like this particular one, you're seeing a bunch of X's sort of against some of those. And, it's a good example of why this kind of distribution is always a balancing act, right? Most of the time, I'd say it's relatively rare we get a client or partner that needs every single one of those boxes checked. But what's interesting to us is finding the balance that does get them all checked, right? I mean, you saw Decentraland down there at the bottom. That's a new pipeline for us because it was user demand, right? People were coming to us and saying, clients, brand clients, agency clients, and saying, listen, we really are having trouble figuring out how to get stuff in Decentraland, not to mention the fact that it actually has to be approved by human hands. So there's that element too. But in terms of the actual specifications, it's tricky, right? So, you'll see a bunch more of those particular channels show up as metaverses keep growing, and brands and partners and creators like you want to actually deliver assets to them and not have to remake the experience every single time they do, because that can't scale if you're a brand, right? It's impossible.
And then beyond the beauty of having that asset fit the different platforms, there's just a matter of simple automation and getting it into the platform. And depending on which one we talk about on this list, it can be relatively simple to just pipe that straight through, whether that's to Google 3D search indexing, or whether we just deploy it straight to the web. But as time goes on, as these metaverses, so to speak, get built out more, we're going to be able to push those out at the click of a button to really wherever it needs to go. So we have about 5 minutes left, and so I'd love to, just give you guys a chance to ask questions and hear what you think.
Yes, you mentioned the milestones you're reaching. It seems like you've done a really good job of reaching that first milestone. What are your visions for reaching the next milestone?
So you're absolutely correct. We're really good at the first milestone because it's the first one. We've had to tread that path many, many times. The second path, we rely on a lot of, we leverage actually a lot of existing tooling out there for tracking solutions, whether that be ARKit, ARCore, WebXR, which is based on that, quick click scene viewer, as well as a variety of other web-based kind of trackers. And for us personally, we're looking at how we can open that up more so that we can just let any other kind of tracker, any of the tracking gaps get filled in by even the community. And then for the third mile, perhaps you want to speak toward that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the third mile for us is storytelling, right? Like, and that doesn't just mean, in the traditional sense, right? I mean, that also means interface, right? That doesn't just mean moment to moment, emotionally packed, narrative. It means a combination of interface. And I think, as we wade into like Web3, I think it also means like this sort of, weaving between, real world, digital world, and even channels of digital world, weaving between metaverses is something we're going to start seeing. I don't know what that is yet. I know we've got the ingredients, right? And this is actually one of the huge reasons we're here. I mean, we love, there was a community presentation in this room of the guys from AR House, who were right up the street from me in Los Angeles. I love them. I go to every single one of their events because they have a completely different version of or vision, I should say, of what the future will look like, and they're breaking every sort of rule that the elements of storytelling were carved with in the last version of the internet. And downstairs there's if you haven't seen the new Magic Leap, like it's really, really good. The field of vision is big, and we had a guy, we were walking up the stairs after he saw it, who has a background in film, and he was visibly moved because he was seeing shadows that he had never seen before in immersive experience. And to a filmmaker, that's one of the oldest tricks in the book, right? Because it can give you a sense of presence, and it will allow you to kind of break film theory rules in a way that we haven't really been able to do yet in VR, So I don't know what like that third mile will be yet. I hope that it's coming out of rooms just like this. And what we're here to do is to just provide the early stage toolkit so you can have as many arrows in your quiver as possible when you start to define what that third mile is.
And to that point, that means that we actively work on building out compatibility for platforms like the new Magic Leap, and to support things like interactivity that is web-based across both Quick Look with the AR schema, or schemas for AR, whatever it's called, and utilizing WebXR, and really just trying to give the most power to tell some kind of story that we can to whatever platform the experience lands on. Any other questions?
Cool. Thank you guys so much. We'll be around downstairs. Come and hang out with us and talk anytime. Appreciate it. Cool. Perfect, dude.